Two events in the past year have led to the making of this film. The first was my grandfather's death. He introduced me to my favorite passion, diving. He was the definition of a true waterman. And more recently, my high school teacher assigning a research project about World War II. Not too long ago, we went to my grandfather's mountain cabin to clear out his things, and I found several documents that were tied to my history project. Most especially were two resumes. One resume was my grandfather's military experience in the electronic field, and the other was his resume in the civilian electronic field. My grandfather was called to top secret military duty to create the radio technology, now known as radar. My grandpa was born in Los Angeles, and he attended Hollywood High. Los Angeles and Hollywood were smaller towns back then, and not the meccas we know today of entertainment. Today, surfing is a billion-dollar industry. You can get surf lessons, you can buy your own boards, but not like my grandpa. My grandpa made his own board from redwood. It weighed 200 pounds. You really had to be an athlete to even lift it. You really had to want to surf. At age 14, my grandpa had his own radio license. By 15, he had his own radio show. And by 18, he was the chief engineer at CBS radio station. Before TV, radio was entertainment.
Good evening. The makers of the new Rinso bring you...
On December 7th, 1941, my grandpa was broadcasting the CBS afternoon radio show on CBS. He was the show engineer for the Ripley's Believe It or Not show. He interrupted the broadcast when he received an urgent news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air. A few minutes later, he interrupted the show with a second news bulletin. President Roosevelt says the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii from the air. The next day, nearly every American was huddled next to the radio to listen to President Roosevelt.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
A few days after Pearl Harbor, my grandfather was recruited by the U.S. Navy for a top-secret mission. The U.S. Navy created a top-secret radio research laboratory headquartered on the campuses of Harvard and MIT. The top-secret group had a mission to develop a secret surveillance and electronic countermeasures to combat Japanese radar and communications. The top-secret group operated from 1941 and 1945, mixed in with the military personnel training at Harvard and MIT. A new military group called Underwater Demolition Team relied on radio signal for their reconnaissance, like locating and clearing underwater mines submerged by the Japanese. My grandfather was part of the Radar and Demolition Team, sent first to Catalina Island to train. A Japanese sub washes up on American soil in Kailua, Hawaii. The Americans were afraid that more of these subs would end up in California. The top secret work done at Harvard and MIT helped prepare the American fight across the Pacific.
long. The Navy begins to soften up the island so we can land.
They would go island to island, installing radio towers on the islands so they could intercept and jam the Japanese radio signals. Then to the Pacific to clear Japanese minds with technology he helped create with a top secret group at Harvard and MIT.
The victory won in the West must now be won in the East.
We are gathered here, representatives of the major warring powers, to conclude a solemn agreement whereby peace may be restored. It is my earnest hope, and indeed the hope of all mankind, that from this solemn occasion a better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past.
I can hear them now, I know, across the street. I'm Kenneth Campbell from Arizona. Okay, boys. Goddamn war's over. What do you got to say about
This is the happiest day of my life.
Oh, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
My grandfather was in Honolulu on the day of the Japanese surrender. These home movies are from Kalakaua Avenue in Waikiki, just a few miles from where the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor 4 years earlier. I now surf and dive with my family and friends in front of this very street. The top secret radar and demolition teams were disbanded within 1 month of the Japanese surrender. If I had never found my grandfather's records, I would never have known of my family's tie with World War II in the Pacific.
Just like the ocean, life holds many beauties, but also holds many dangers. If you can't overcome the idea of danger, you can never see the beauty in front of you.